If your life depends on how motivated you feel, you'll keep starting over forever. Think about it. How many times have you said, I just need to stay focused, or this time, I'm really going to stick with it? But it never lasts, right? The truth is, most people don't have a discipline problem, they have a system problem. You don't need bigger goals. You need a daily setup that doesn't fall apart when your mood changes. In this video, you'll learn how to set systems instead of chasing goals. Systems that fit into your real life and keep going even when you're tired, distracted, or not in the mood. No hype, no pressure, just something that works. If you're tired of starting strong and fading out, this might be the shift you've been needing. Stay with this. It could change everything. Number one, lock in habits that work even on bad days. Anyone can show up when they feel good, when they're excited, when they're full of energy. But what about those days when you don't feel like doing anything? What about the mornings when your body's tired, your mind is scattered, and everything feels a little off? That's where most people stop. That's where dreams get delayed. That's where goals begin to fade, because they were only built for the good days. But if you really want to change your life, if you want something that lasts, you've got to build habits that don't care how you feel. Systems that don't depend on your mood. A way of living that functions even when your energy is low, when life isn't going your way, and when you're tempted to take the easy path. Most people set goals. Big goals. They write them down. They imagine what life will be like when they reach them. But then real life shows up. Stress hits, work piles up, motivation disappears, and the goal just sits there untouched. Because it was never about the goal. It was always about the system behind it. You don't need to feel strong every day. You need to build something that works even when you're weak. That's the difference between wishing for something and building a life that delivers results no matter what. See, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. So if your habits break every time you have a bad day, then you've got a life that's built on sand. But if your habits stay solid, even when your mind is tired, when your heart is heavy, when your patience is thin, then you've got something powerful, something that lasts. The first step is understanding that you won't always feel like it. And that's okay. You're human. Some days will feel heavy. Some mornings the alarm clock will bring and you won't want to move. Your body will beg for more sleep. Your brain will tell you to skip the hard stuff. That's normal. But that's also why you need a system. A system takes thinking out of it. It removes the debate. When you have a system, you don't ask yourself, do I feel like doing it today? You already know the answer doesn't matter. It's on the schedule. It's part of your day, like brushing your teeth. It's not up for negotiation. Now, here's the real truth most people won't tell you. Your system doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real. It needs to be something you can actually follow, even on a rough day. That's why so many people fail. They try to create these big, perfect routines that only work when everything in life is calm. But life isn't always calm. So instead, build something that holds up even in the chaos. Start small, really small. If you want to read more, don't tell yourself you'll read 50 pages a day. Set up a system that says, every night before I sleep, I'll read 2 pages, no matter what. Why 2? Because 2 is possible even on the hard days. And here's the beauty. You'll often do more. But the system wasn't built for the best days. It was built for the worst ones. The same goes for working out. Don't say, I'll go to the gym for 2 hours every day. That's a goal, not a system. A system sounds like this. At 7 a.m. every weekday, I walk into the gym and move my body for 20 minutes. It's short, it's doable, and it's repeatable. You can scale it up when you're on fire, but on the hard days, it still happens. That's power. Systems win because they're built into your life. They don't wait for inspiration. They rely on rhythm, not hype. They use structure, not hype. If you're tired of starting over, you need a system. A way of living that's not based on how you feel, but on what you've decided. Decide once, execute daily. That's how strong people stay strong. You also need to know your weak points. Where do you break down? What triggers your laziness? When do you usually give up? Study those patterns. Don't ignore them. Don't hide from them. Look at them honestly, because your system must include protection from your worst habits. For example, if you always get distracted in the afternoon and start scrolling on your phone, your system has to include a block for that. Maybe at 2 p.m. every day, your phone goes in another room for 1 hour. That's a system. And on the days when your mind wants to wander, your system holds the line. And the biggest piece of this is understanding that emotions are not permanent. They come and go. Your job is not to feel perfect. Your job is to keep showing up, even when you don't. That's where growth lives. That's where strength is built. Not on the easy days, on the hard ones. You've got to train your mind to follow your system, not the other way around. Most people let their feelings run the show. I'm tired, I'll skip today. I'm not in the mood, I'll start tomorrow. And they repeat that pattern for years until one day they realize nothing has changed. Time passed, life moved, but they stayed in the same place because they waited for feelings that never came consistently. Now let's talk about the deeper side of this. You see, when you follow a system, even on your worst days, you build something inside you. You build trust with yourself. That's not small. That changes everything. Because most people break promises to themselves over and over. They say they'll start and they don't. They say they'll stay committed and they quit. And each time they do, they lose a little more belief in themselves. But when you follow through, especially when you don't feel like it, you rebuild that trust. You start to believe again. You become the kind of person who does what they said they'd do. That's real confidence. That's self-respect. And no one can give that to you but you. So make your system simple. Make it solid. Make it so clear that even on a tired day, even on a rough morning, you can still do it. And understand this, discipline is not about being hard on yourself. It's about being kind to your future. A good system protects you from regret. It gives you direction when you're lost. It gives you motion when you're stuck. It gives you proof that you're not done yet, that you still have fight in you. Your habits must not depend on the weather, the news, your friends, your emotions, or your schedule. They must stand on their own. That's what separates people who grow from people who repeat. People often ask, how do I stay motivated? But that's the wrong question. You don't stay motivated, you stay consistent, because consistency builds momentum, and momentum builds motivation. You don't need 1,000 new habits. You need a few strong ones that stick. You don't need to change everything overnight. You need to change one thing and not break it when life gets messy. Think about your own life right now. What do you do daily that moves you forward? And what do you keep skipping every time things get tough? Your answer is the start of your new system. Write it down, keep it simple. Make it something you can do when you're tired, bored, frustrated, or stressed, because that's the real test. Anyone can do it when it's easy. Few can do it when it's hard. But those few, they win, they grow, they change. They build lives that don't collapse under pressure. If you want lasting change, stop building around how you feel and start building around what you repeat. So stop chasing the perfect moment. Stop waiting to feel ready. Start building systems that carry you forward on the good days, the hard days, and every day in between. Your life will not change from what you plan to do. It will change from what you do again and again and again. Even on the days when nothing in you feels ready. That's how you lock in habits that work. even on bad days. And once you've got that, you don't need motivation. You've got something stronger. You've got proof that you're serious. And that changes everything. Number 2, make boring tasks part of your normal routine. Most people chase excitement. They want every task to feel fun, every routine to feel fresh, every moment to feel motivating. But life doesn't work that way, and success never has. The truth is, most of what makes life better is not exciting. It's not flashy, it's not fun, it's repetitive, it's consistent, it's boring. And that's exactly why so few people stick with it. The people who make real progress, the people who change, the people who grow, they don't rely on excitement. They learn to show up when it's boring. They learn to keep going when it's not fun. They don't wait for motivation. They build routines where even the most boring tasks become part of their day, like brushing their teeth or tying their shoes. They stop thinking of those tasks as optional. They make them automatic. If you only do the work when it's exciting, you'll never build anything that lasts, because the things that move your life forward, working out, eating right, saving money, reading, planning your day, reviewing your habits, these things aren't entertaining. They're necessary. And they're easy to skip if you treat them like extra credit. But when you make them a normal part of your day, they lose their resistance. You stop arguing with yourself about them. You stop trying to find the energy. You just do it because that's what you do. Think about the boring tasks in your life that you already do without thinking. Maybe it's making your bed. Maybe it's brushing your teeth. Maybe it's packing your bag for work. You don't get excited to do those things, but you do them because they're part of your rhythm. You've done them so many times that they no longer need a decision. They run on autopilot. That's how all-powerful habits should feel. Boring, normal, part of your identity. When you make boring tasks part of your routine, you take back control. You stop reacting. You stop depending on external motivation. You take ownership of your day. You say, this matters to me, and it's going to get done no matter how I feel about it. That builds character. That builds results. That's how you grow. You see, we live in a world where everyone's chasing new hacks, new systems, new routines. But new doesn't build consistency. Familiar does. Repetition does. And the boring stuff, that's where repetition lives. That's where the real changes start. A lot of people say they want discipline, but they confuse discipline with intensity. Intensity is pushing hard for 1 or 2 days. Discipline is doing the same boring action for weeks, months, and years, even when nobody sees it, even when nobody praises it, even when there's no visible reward in the moment. That's what separates the person who talks from the person who transforms. If you want a better body, it won't come from one intense workout. It'll come from showing up to do the same movements again and again, even when your mind is bored and your body is tired. If you want financial freedom, it won't come from a single good month. It'll come from budgeting, tracking, saving, and saying no to impulse buys, day after day, month after month. These are not exciting tasks. They don't give instant pleasure, but they give long-term peace, and that peace is earned through repetition. The reason most people fail to create change is because they quit during the boring part. They start strong, they feel excited, they see a little progress, then things slow down. Results don't come as fast. The routine starts to feel heavy, and they begin to say things like, this isn't working, or I'll start something new. That's where most goals die, not in failure, but in boredom. But here's the truth. If you can learn to make boring tasks part of your routine, you eliminate the biggest threat to your progress. You stop quitting. You stop pausing. You stop restarting. You just keep going. And when you keep going, progress stacks up quietly, slowly, but surely. It's not about forcing yourself to love the boring parts. It's about learning to respect them, to understand their purpose, to value their role. When you see how much these simple, repetitive actions matter, you stop seeing them as a waste of time. You start to see them as the foundation of everything you want. There's also something powerful about doing what others won't. Most people can't handle boredom. They chase pleasure. They want change without repetition. They want growth without routine. But when you're the one who shows up every day, doing the boring task over and over without applause, you separate yourself quietly, strongly, permanently. You don't need to enjoy the boring tasks. You need to keep doing them. And the more you repeat them, the more they become part of you. They stop feeling like a chore. They become normal. They become easy. And that's the goal, not to love every task, but to make the hard ones feel automatic. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. The boring tasks you avoid are often the exact things that would change your life if you just stuck with them. Writing that journal, logging that workout, drinking that water, practicing that skill, planning your next day, these are the quiet moves that build real results. People talk about systems, but systems don't work without boring tasks. A system is only as strong as its consistency, and consistency is built in the repetition of small actions, day after day. That's how a system changes your life. Not through one big moment, but through hundreds of quiet ones. You've got to retrain your mind. You've got to stop expecting everything to feel good. Growth doesn't feel good most of the time, but it feels worth it later. The boring task you avoid today is the thing your future self will thank you for tomorrow. When you learn to show up for the boring tasks, you become dependable. And when you're dependable to yourself, you start to build belief. You stop doubting your ability to follow through. You stop needing to prove anything to anyone. You start knowing who you are. This isn't about grinding yourself into exhaustion. It's about building a rhythm that removes resistance. It's about creating patterns that don't break under stress. You can't afford to rely on excitement. Excitement fades, but habits stay. Routines hold. That's how you move forward. Steadily, patiently, powerfully. So ask yourself, what boring task are you avoiding? What part of your day always feels hard, annoying, or pointless? That task is your starting point. Not the big flashy idea, not the new strategy, the boring thing, the one that feels like it doesn't matter. Because once that becomes part of your routine, the rest becomes easier. There's no secret to success, no shortcut, no magical feeling. It's about making a few important actions so normal that they stop being a decision. They just become what you do. That's freedom. That's how you take your life from chaos to control. You don't need more motivation. You need more structure. You don't need to feel inspired. You need to follow through on what matters. And the way to do that is by turning the boring tasks into your foundation. It will feel slow at first. It might feel pointless some days. But you'll start to notice something. You're becoming stronger, more stable, more focused. And while others are stopping, starting, and drifting, you'll be moving forward quietly, steadily. And before you know it, those boring tasks will be the reason everything in your life feels more in control. Make them part of your normal day. Treat them like brushing your teeth, like locking your front door. No thinking, no doubting, no waiting, just doing. Because when the boring things stop being optional, your life stops being unpredictable. You build stability, you build discipline, you build momentum, and most importantly, you build yourself. The real you, the consistent you, the grounded you, the version of you who doesn't need a perfect day to make progress. That's the person who wins. That's the person who changes. That's the person who lives life on purpose, one boring task at a time. Every single day. Number 3, train your brain to follow patterns not pressure. Pressure breaks most people. It builds up in their minds, makes simple things feel heavy, and turns daily tasks into something overwhelming. But pressure isn't always real. Sometimes it's just your thoughts getting louder than your discipline. It's the voice in your head saying you have to do this now or you're behind. Or, if you don't get this done perfectly, you're failing. That voice grows when there's no pattern, when everything you do is reactive, scattered, and inconsistent. If you want peace, if you want focus, if you want to get things done without draining yourself, you have to train your brain to follow patterns, not pressure. Patterns give you direction, pressure gives you panic. When you wake up in the morning without a pattern, your brain scrambles to find something to hold on to. It gets flooded with decisions, questions, and stress. But when your day follows a simple, clear structure, your mind relaxes. You're no longer chasing clarity, you're following it. Most people operate on pressure. They wait until the deadline. They delay action until anxiety hits. Then they sprint, stress, and collapse. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy. And it doesn't build long-term results. You don't need pressure to succeed. You need rhythm. You need to make certain behaviors automatic, repeated, consistent. That's how you create momentum that doesn't wear you out. Patterns are reliable. You don't need to think about brushing your teeth. You just do it. It's part of the pattern. That's how the rest of your day should feel. Not full of mental noise and urgent thoughts, but calm, controlled, and intentional. When your brain knows what to expect, it stops overthinking. It stops hesitating. It starts focusing on the doing, not the doubt. Training your brain to follow patterns starts with removing the constant negotiation. Every time you ask yourself, should I do this now? You give pressure a place to grow. But when the task is already built into your day, when it has a time and space, that question disappears. You're not waiting on emotion. You're just acting. The goal is not to become robotic. It's to become stable, to remove the chaos from your thinking, to make your actions stronger than your moods. When your day has structure, your mind becomes clearer. It knows what's coming. It prepares. It doesn't waste energy guessing. Pressure makes you feel like you're always behind. Patterns keep you ahead. When you follow pressure, you rely on adrenaline. When you follow patterns, you rely on discipline. And discipline doesn't burn out. It builds up. This is how you stop being overwhelmed. You give every important task a home. You decide when and how it happens. You don't leave it floating around, waiting to turn into pressure. That's what most people do. They let tasks pile up mentally. They carry unfinished thoughts. They try to remember everything. That creates a storm in the mind. But a strong pattern clears the storm. It takes scattered thoughts and turns them into simple steps. When your brain has too many choices, it freezes. It becomes restless. You start jumping between tasks, getting nothing done. But when your day is mapped with patterns, your choices shrink and your results grow. You don't have to decide everything on the spot. You've already decided it once, and now you're just following through. Some people think patterns make life boring. They think it's too rigid. But what's truly exhausting is pressure. Waking up every day not knowing what to do, feeling like there's never enough time, spinning in circles because everything feels urgent. That's what steals your energy, not the pattern, but the lack of one. A good pattern brings freedom. It gives your brain space. It creates clarity. It helps you spend your energy on what matters, instead of wasting it on indecision. And you start to trust yourself more, because you see yourself following through. You feel progress happening. You feel the noise getting quieter. To train your brain, start small. Don't try to plan everything. Start with just one pattern, one time block, one habit. Choose a time, choose the task, and commit to it. Same time, same action, every day. Your brain will resist at first. It'll try to make excuses. But with enough repetition, that resistance fades, and it becomes part of who you are. It's not about being perfect. It's about being predictable to yourself. If your days look different every time you wake up, your mind will always feel unsettled. But when you create patterns, when your brain knows what's coming, it adapts. It becomes sharper, more focused, less reactive. You need to see pressure for what it really is, a reaction to chaos. It's your mind's way of screaming for order. So give it order, give it rhythm. Replace the pressure with a pattern that works, one that keeps your mind steady, even when life gets tough. You'll notice your stress start to drop. Your confidence will grow. Not because everything's perfect, but because you finally have control. You're not chasing tasks anymore. You're leading them. You're creating a day that works for you, not against you. And this doesn't mean you can't be flexible. It means you start with structure. You begin from a place of clarity. Then you adapt if needed. But you never operate from chaos. You never live in pressure. The people who create big changes aren't always the most talented. They're often just the most consistent. They've learned to build lives around strong patterns. They've stopped giving in to pressure. And because of that, they're always moving forward. Calmly, steadily, effectively. When your brain follows a pattern, your mind gets stronger. Your focus improves. Your stress drops. Your results increase. That's the power of structure. It protects you from burnout. It protects you from the emotional roller coaster. It keeps you grounded. And over time, that pattern becomes your edge. It becomes the reason you show up when others quit. The reason you stay focused when others panic. The reason you build real progress without forcing it. So stop waiting for pressure to push you into action. Create patterns that pull you into focus. Make your day so steady that your brain doesn't have to guess. Give your mind peace. Give your goals structure. Give your habits a home. That's how you move through life with power. Not rushed, not reactive, not overwhelmed, but clear, composed, and always in motion. When you train your brain to follow patterns, you stop being a slave to pressure. You start living by design, not reaction. And that's how everything starts to change. Quietly, deeply, permanently. Number 4. Break big ideas into things you can repeat. Most people get excited by big ideas. They imagine their dream life, their ideal body, their future success, and they feel inspired for a moment. They see the end result in their head, but they never break it down into something they can actually do. So the idea stays a fantasy. It never becomes real because it never becomes small enough to start. That's the problem. Not the lack of vision, but the lack of breakdown. When something feels too big, it paralyzes the mind. You start thinking about all the steps at once. You imagine the 100 things that have to happen before you get there. And suddenly your brain says, it's too much. So you stop before you even start. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't want it, but because you never turned that big idea into small actions you could repeat. The most powerful change doesn't come from one big move. It comes from something you do over and over. If you look at anyone who's mastered anything, fitness, business, communication, leadership, they didn't wake up one day with it all figured out. They found a small piece of the puzzle and repeated it until it became part of who they were. If you want to write a book, the idea of writing 50,000 words might feel overwhelming, but writing 500 words a day is simple. If you want to lose 30 pounds, focusing on the whole number makes it feel distant. But walking 30 minutes a day and choosing one clean meal is something you can do today. Repeating small moves is how big ideas become reality. Your brain works better when it knows where to begin. It doesn't need a full plan for the next year. It needs a starting point you can return to every day. That's what repetition gives you. Stability, direction, a path that doesn't disappear just because life gets messy. You have to stop making your goals about size and start making them about consistency. A big goal sounds good when you talk about it, but a repeated action is what brings it to life. It's easy to say, I want to start a business, but that doesn't mean anything until you break it down into what you'll do today, tomorrow, and next week. A website doesn't build itself. A product doesn't create itself. You have to carve out steps that fit into your daily structure. When you repeat something small, you're teaching your brain that this is what matters now. You stop fantasizing about the future and start acting in the present. You don't need to get everything done at once. You just need to keep doing the next piece again and again. Most people are stuck not because they lack ideas, but because their ideas are too big to act on. And they're afraid to shrink them down because they think small steps aren't impressive enough. But here's the truth. Small steps are what make everything possible. The people who succeed don't do everything. They do the right things over and over. And that's what moves them forward. You can't build something great from random, scattered effort. You need rhythm, you need simplicity, and you need actions you can repeat without talking yourself out of them. That's how real progress feels. It's not loud, it's steady. Don't aim to finish everything in a week. Aim to do something every day that moves you forward. No matter how small it looks, those small pieces start to add up. One brick a day builds the wall. One rep a day strengthens the muscle. One conversation a day builds the network. One skill a day sharpens your value. That's how it works. That's what creates results that last. A big idea should never stay big in your head. It should be broken down until it fits inside your day. Because if it doesn't fit into your day, it will never fit into your life. That's the standard. If the action isn't repeatable, it won't survive long term. And if it's not simple, your brain will find a way to skip it. Break your goals into actions that don't rely on emotion. Don't build your plan around energy or inspiration. Build it around behavior you can do even on tired days. That's what makes it sustainable. That's how you make sure you don't stop halfway. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters. Again and again. The power is in the rhythm. It's in showing up every day and hitting the mark, even when the results haven't shown up yet. Because you trust the system, you trust the process, and more importantly, you trust yourself to keep showing up. If something feels too hard to repeat, simplify. Don't try to do the hardest version of a task every time. Do the version you can stick with. Start with 5 minutes if you need to, then grow it slowly. Make it strong before you make it big. That's the difference between people who burn out and people who break through. Break everything down. The habit, the schedule, the process. Make it so simple you can't miss it. Make it so clear that your brain doesn't need to think twice. That's how you remove the gap between knowing what you want and doing what it takes. Stop waiting to feel ready. Break it down and begin. Because once you do, you'll feel momentum. And momentum is worth more than motivation. It builds belief. It builds identity. It proves to you that you can do it again tomorrow. And if tomorrow gets hard, you won't have to figure out what to do. You'll already know, because the path is there. Number 5. Build structure that holds you up when you crash. There will be days when you don't feel like doing anything. Days when your mind is heavy, your body is drained, and everything feels harder than it should. Maybe you didn't sleep well. Maybe something went wrong. Maybe you're just tired of trying. It happens to all of us. And if you don't have something solid to lean on, you fall. You lose your rhythm. You lose your momentum. And before you know it, a bad day turns into a bad week. A bad week becomes a bad month. And suddenly you're back where you started. That's why you need structure. Not for the days when everything is going well, but for the days when you crash. Structure is what keeps you standing when your emotions try to knock you down. It gives you something to return to when your motivation is gone. It's the safety net that keeps your progress from breaking apart. Without structure, you have to rely on how you feel. And feelings are unpredictable. One small setback can throw everything off. But structure doesn't bend when your mood does. It holds its place. Stays strong so you don't have to figure things out from scratch every time you fall. When you build a structure around your life, you're not controlling everything. You're protecting your future. You're saying, even if today goes wrong, I still have a base. I still have actions I can take that don't require me to feel amazing. And that's powerful, because most people quit not because they can't do it, but because they didn't plan for the hard moments. They only built routines for the good time. So when pressure hits, when emotions shift, they collapse. The structure you build should be simple. It should be something you understand, something you can return to without overthinking. That might look like waking up at the same time every day, no matter how you feel, or having a short checklist that you follow regardless of how motivated you are. It could mean planning your meals ahead of time so you don't make bad choices when you're exhausted, or keeping your workspace clean and organized so you don't start your day surrounded by stress. These small things, when repeated, give your mind less to fight through. Think about how much energy is wasted trying to make decisions in the middle of chaos. You wake up late, you don't know what to do first. You start rushing, skipping steps, reacting to everything. That's what happens when there's no structure. But if you already know your first 3 actions of the day, you don't waste time thinking. You just move. You just begin. And sometimes that's all it takes to turn the day around. This isn't about being strict or robotics. It's about building support systems for your weaker moments, because we all have them. Nobody's consistent every single day. But when you have structure, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to stick to the basics. The structure keeps your habits in place. It reminds you who you are when you forget. And it keeps you from slipping too far off track when life gets hard. Structure creates freedom. Not the kind of freedom where you do whatever you want. The kind where your time is used with intention, where you're not pulled in 100 directions, where you're not wasting your days trying to get back on track. Because you never let yourself drift that far in the first place. That kind of freedom is built on daily structure, and it's one of the most valuable things you can give yourself. You don't have to structure every second of your day. That's not realistic. But you do need to lock in a few key routines that stay the same no matter what. A morning routine that anchors you. A work structure that keeps you productive. An evening routine that shuts down the day with peace. These aren't complicated. They're repeatable. They're dependable. And that's what makes them work. People often say, I'll get back to my routine when things calm down. But that's backward. You keep your routine so things don't fall apart when life gets loud. It's not about waiting for perfect conditions. It's about preparing for the messy ones, the tired ones, the days when your thoughts are all over the place. That's when your structure saves you. It might sound simple, but it's not easy. Because structure requires discipline. It asks you to do things even when you're not in the mood. It asks you to respect your plan even when nobody's watching. But that's what makes it work. That's what makes it strong. And once you've lived with real structure, you don't want to go back to chaos. You don't want to keep rebuilding your mindset every time life throws a punch. You want something you can lean on. Something that won't break when you do. That's the beauty of it. Structure doesn't need to feel exciting. It just needs to hold. You don't need to be at your best for structure to help you. You just need to return to. You just need to let it carry you until you feel strong again. Because you will feel strong again. You will bounce back. But until then, let the structure keep you moving. The more you follow your structure, the more natural it becomes. It starts to feel like part of who you are. You don't have to remind yourself anymore. It's just how you operate. And that's when your life starts to change. Not because everything's perfect, but because you finally have something that keeps you steady through the imperfect. Don't wait for rock bottom to build a foundation. Build it now, while you have the energy, while you can think clearly. Create something solid that future you can lean on. Not every day will be smooth. Not every plan will go right. But if you've built the structure, you won't fall far. You'll know how to reset. You'll know how to come back. That's what real strength looks like. Not never crashing, but never staying down. And what helps you stand back up isn't willpower. It's structure. It's what you designed for moments exactly like this. You need something stronger than your excuse. You need something that doesn't change when your motivation disappears. That's what a strong structure gives you. It becomes your fallback, your baseline. Your reminder that even on your worst days, you still have something to hold on to. So take the time, build it now. Build it around the things that matter most to you. Make it simple, make it solid, make it so real that when things fall apart, you don't. Because you won't always be at your best, but you can always come back to your structure. And that's what keeps you moving. That's what keeps you from breaking. That's what builds the kind of life that doesn't depend on luck or timing or emotions. Just quiet discipline, just clear design. Just strong structure, holding you up when nothing else does. Number 6, replace wishful thinking with daily solid actions. Most people spend more time imagining a better life than building one. They talk about their dreams. They think about what they want. They hope things will change. But hope doesn't make things happen. Action does. And until you replace wishful thinking with solid daily actions, nothing around you will change. It doesn't matter how big your goals are or how badly you want something. If your days don't reflect your desires, your life won't either. Wishing feels good. It gives you a quick hit of excitement. You picture the end result. You imagine the success. You see yourself in a new position, in better shape, living with more freedom. But then the feeling fades, and you're left with the same routines, the same habits, the same distractions, and that's the trap. The more you fantasize, the more satisfied you feel temporarily, without doing anything real to move closer. That's why people can go years wishing for change, but never experiencing it. The people who make real progress don't spend their days dreaming. They spend their days doing. They don't wait for the right time. They don't wait for everything to feel perfect. They just start. They focus on the small actions they can control. They look at each day and ask, what can I do today that brings me one step closer? Then they do that, whether they feel like it or not. Wishful thinking is easy. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't demand consistency, but action does. Action asks you to show up, to follow through, to make decisions, to sacrifice comfort. And that's why so many people avoid it, because it's not always pleasant. But the discomfort of action is what creates results. It's what builds skill, character, and progress. You have to stop hoping for change and start creating it. That means setting up daily actions that are real, trackable, and consistent. You don't need a massive plan. You don't need to know every detail. You just need to move. Action is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Without it, you're just standing still, staring at the other side. The truth is, nothing about your situation will shift if your behavior stays the same. You can't keep living the same day and expect a different result. The change starts when your habits change. Not once, but every day. Not when you feel inspired, but when you decide it mattered enough to be done regularly. Think about the things you've been wishing for. Maybe it's a healthier body. Maybe it's more money. Maybe it's stronger relationships, a better mindset, or a life with more direction. Ask yourself this: what actions am I taking every single day to support this? And be honest. Not what you plan to do. Not what you did last month. What are you doing now, today, this week? When there's a gap between your wishes and your actions, you'll feel stuck. And that stuck feeling doesn't come from failure. It comes from inaction. Your mind knows what you want, but your behavior doesn't back it up. That creates frustration. It creates self-doubt. It creates anxiety. But the moment you align your actions with your goals, things shift. You start building confidence, not because you've arrived, but because you're moving. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need everything figured out. You just need to act. Start with something simple, something small, something that can be repeated. The goal isn't to do everything in one day. The goal is to do something meaningful every day. This is not about being busy. Being busy isn't the same as being productive. It's easy to fill your time with distractions and call it effort. But solid daily action means you're doing what matters, what pushes the needle, what brings real change. That kind of action is intentional. It's chosen. It's prioritized. A person who builds their day around action is building their future, slowly, quietly, powerfully. You won't always see the results immediately. That's why most people give up. They do the right thing for a few days, then stop when nothing seems to change. But consistency is invisible at first. Progress is quiet in the beginning. If you want real growth, you have to keep going through that quiet phase. That's where most of the battle is won. Replace every vague goal with a clear action. Don't say, I want to be healthier. Say every morning, I drink water, I walk, and I eat clean for breakfast. Don't say, I want to be rich. Say every day, I learn something about money. I track my expenses, and I avoid waste. The more specific your actions, the stronger your results. Clarity creates momentum, and clarity lives in your behavior. You don't get rewarded for thinking about the future. You get rewarded for building it. That means getting uncomfortable. That means doing the task you've been putting off. That means saying no to distractions. That means getting serious about what your time is being used for. Your future is built in your habits, not in your imagination. There's nothing wrong with dreaming, but dreaming without action becomes a lie you tell yourself, a story you keep repeating to feel better about standing still. And you deserve more than that. You deserve a life that reflects your effort, and that only comes through daily, solid action. It's easy to look at others and think they had something you didn't. More resources, more talent, more support. But most of the time, the difference is discipline. They didn't wait. They didn't hope. They did the work, even when it was boring, even when it was hard, even when nobody was watching. And you can do the same. You don't have to live in pressure. You just have to be consistent. You don't need to feel motivated. You need to follow the discipline to act every day is what will give you the life you keep thinking about. The version of you that gets everything done isn't special. They're just consistent. They replaced emotion with structure. They stopped wishing and started doing. You can do that too. Not next week, not next month. Now. Start now. One action, one change, one step that can't be skipped. Then do it again tomorrow and the next day until it becomes who you are. Stop waiting for life to hand you something. Stop counting on luck. Stop expecting things to fall into place just because you want them to. Nothing works unless you do. Nothing moves unless you push. Nothing builds unless you stay with it long enough to see the change. Every day you wake up with a choice. Repeat the same cycle or break it. Talk about what you want or start becoming it. Think about the future, or create it one action at a time. Your time is not unlimited. You don't get today back. So what will you do with it? Wish or act. The life you want is on the other side of what you do daily. Replace wishful thinking with daily solid actions. And don't stop, because once you start showing up with action, life starts showing up with results. Quiet at first, then louder, then undeniable, all built from what you chose to do every single day. Number 7. Control your day so your mind stays clear. When your day feels out of control, your mind does too. You can't think straight. You can't focus. And even small tasks start to feel overwhelming. Everything feels urgent, but nothing gets done. Your energy drains fast. Not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing too many things without direction. That's what happens when you don't take control of your day. Your day takes control of you. And when that happens too often, stress becomes your normal state. Not because your life is too full, but because your time isn't being used with purpose. If your mind is full of noise all day, you don't have room to think clearly. You don't have the space to focus. You feel scattered, and over time that confusion becomes your baseline. But the truth is, a clear mind isn't something you find by chance. It's something you create on purpose. And it starts with how you manage your day. You have to stop waking up and reacting to everything. That's what most people do. They wake up late, check their phone, get hit with notifications, messages, headlines, demands, all before they've had a single quiet moment. From the minute they open their eyes, they're already behind. And that feeling of being behind follows them all day. It makes them run, makes them feel pressure. It makes them skip the things that matter and waste energy on things that don't. When you don't take control early, your entire day becomes damage control. You respond to problems instead of working on priorities. You let other people's urgency shape your choice. You put out fires that weren't even yours to begin with. And that kind of day leaves your mind exhausted. Not because the work was hard, but because the chaos never stopped. If you want mental clarity, you have to take control of the first part of your day. That means waking up with intention, not rushing, not checking your phone, not jumping into work, but taking time to start your day with clarity and direction. You decide what matters. You choose what needs your attention. You set the pace instead of chasing it. That's where power lives, in the early moment. If your first hour is rushed, scattered, and noisy, your entire day gets harder. But if your first hour is clear, focused, and steady, the rest of your day becomes more manageable. It's not about having a perfect routine. It's about having a plan that serves your mind, not just your schedule. You need to write things down. You need a system. If your entire to-do list is stuck in your head, your brain stays cluttered. You spend more time remembering things than doing them. That creates anxiety. But when your tasks are written down, your mind can relax. You know where your focus should go. You stop spinning in circles and start moving forward with direction. Time blocks help. Deciding ahead of time what each part of your day is for. One block for deep work, one for errands, one for learning, one for rest. This removes the mental back and forth. You're not wondering what to do next. You're not juggling 5 things at once. You're focused. And when you're focused, your mind feels lighter. You also need to protect your attention. That means turning off notifications. That means keeping your phone in another room when you're working. That means saying no to things that don't need you right now. Your attention is your most valuable resource. If you let everyone and everything steal it all day, don't be surprised when your mind feels fried. People think they're tired from doing too much, but often, they're just tired from doing too much of the wrong stuff, from saying yes to everything, from bouncing between tasks, from letting other people's chaos become their own. But that's a choice, and it can be changed. You have to slow things down, not your ambition, but your mind. You need room to think. You need space to breathe. And that starts with creating structure. You control your calendar, or it controls you. You protect your energy, or it gets drained by things that don't matter. Every single day, you have the chance to decide how you want your mind to feel. Do you want to feel scattered and reactive, or do you want to feel clear and in control? That answer isn't found in your feelings. It's built through your habits, through how you spend your time. A clean workspace helps. A simple plan helps. Breaks during the day help. So does closing tabs. So does turning off the noise. So does getting up and moving when your brain starts to feel foggy. These small changes protect your mind from overload. You don't need more hours, you need more intention. You need to give your time a job. You need to stop multitasking your life away. You need to stop treating your attention like it's limitless. It's not. It runs out fast when it's scattered. But when you manage it well, it becomes sharp, focused, clear. Mental clarity is not about having an easy life. It's about having a steady approach. It's about setting your priorities, following a plan, and staying grounded. Even when the day gets hard, it's about creating a rhythm that works for you, not against you. You don't have to control every moment. You just need to control enough of them that your mind doesn't feel like it's drowning. That means being honest about your distractions. That means being clear about what matters most today. That means making hard choices about where your time goes. It's easy to stay busy. It's harder to stay intentional. But that's the difference between a mind that's scattered and a mind that's strong. And that strength is built in the choices you make daily, not in what you plan to do someday, but in what you decide to do with the next hour. You are not powerless against the noise. You can step back. You can simplify. You can slow down enough to regain control. And once you do, you'll think clearer. You'll work better. You'll feel more calm. Not because your life is perfect, but because your time finally has direction. Control your day, and your mind will follow. Not all at once, not perfectly, but steadily. And that steadiness will give you the space to live, to work, to grow, without feeling like your thoughts are pulling you in 100 directions. That's the goal. Not to do more, but to be clear. Because clarity leads to power, and power begins with how you manage your day. Number 8, stop depending on energy and depend on structure. Most people wait to feel good before they act. They wait for the perfect mood. They wait for the energy. They wait for motivation to kick in. But the problem is, energy isn't reliable. Some days you wake up feeling strong, other days you feel off for no clear reason. If you're depending on energy to get things done, your life will be inconsistent. And inconsistency keeps you stuck. You get one good day, then 3 where nothing moves forward. And you wonder why nothing changes. You can't depend on energy. It comes and goes. Sometimes it shows up when you least expect it, and sometimes it disappears when you need it most. That's why you need structure. Something stronger than how you feel. Something you can lean on when everything inside you wants to take the easy way out. That's the difference between people who move forward and people who stay stuck. One group waits to feel ready. The other group shows up because the plan is already set. Structure creates freedom. It removes the need to negotiate with yourself all day. When you have structure, you don't spend energy deciding what to do. You already know. You follow the routine. You stick to the plan. You do what's on the schedule. And the structure holds, even when your energy doesn't. Most people spend more time thinking about what they need to do than actually doing it. That mental back and forth burns more energy than the task itself. You say, I should go to the gym, then you check your phone. You say, I need to write today. Then you make coffee, open 3 tabs, scroll for a bit. By the time you're ready to start, the energy's gone. But with structure, you don't leave space for debate. You go where the routine tells you to go. You do what you said you'd do yesterday. You act without asking for permission from your mood. Structure also protects you from burnout. Because it gives your day boundaries, it tells you when to stop, not just when to start. Without it, you might keep working until you're drained, or waste the whole day trying to start. But when your day has a shape, your mind stays focused. You conserve energy because your actions are aligned. It's not about being tryst, it's about being steady. Life is already full of surprises. Your mind doesn't need more uncertainty. When you rely on how you feel to decide what gets done, you become reactive. But when you rely on structure, you become stable. You act with purpose. You move with rhythm. You've probably had days when everything flowed. You felt good, things got done, and by the end of the day you felt clear and proud. But what made that day work wasn't luck, it was structure. Maybe you started at the same time. Maybe you followed a simple plan. Maybe you removed distractions early. That wasn't about energy. That was about setup. You gave your mind a map, and because it didn't have to guess, it worked better. The goal is not to eliminate emotion. It's to stop letting it control your decisions. You're not always going to feel inspired. You're not always going to feel rested. And that's okay. What matters is that you have a system that keeps you in motion anyway. A repeatable way to move forward, no matter the mood or mindset. Some people treat structure like a cage. They think it limits freedom. But what limits freedom is chaos, not knowing what to do, feeling overwhelmed, spending hours stuck in your head. Real freedom is knowing where your time is going. Real peace comes from following a routine that supports your goals. When your actions are aligned with what matters, you stop feeling scattered. If your progress is always tied to your best days, you'll only grow once in a while. But if your progress is tied to structure, you'll grow steadily. That's the power of having a daily system. It doesn't require energy. It just requires showing up. Start small. Pick one part of your day and lock it in. Maybe it's the first hour of your morning. Maybe it's your lunch break. Maybe it's your evening wind down. Whatever it is, make it solid. Make it non-negotiable. Let your body and mind get used to the pattern. And once that part is stable, build from there. The hardest part is trusting that small routines lead to big change. But that's the truth. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You need to repeat the right things long enough to let them work. Consistency wins every time. Not loud progress, not fast bursts of energy, but quiet structure, followed daily. You don't need to rely on hype. You don't need to wait for inspiration. You need to trust the plan you created and act on it daily. And when your energy is low, let the structure guide you. Let it take over. Let it carry you through the rough path. You'll start to see something shift. You won't dread the work as much. You won't wait as long to start. You won't waste time negotiating with yourself. Your body will begin to move before your excuses kick in. That's not motivation. That's training. That's what structure does. It conditions your mind to act without drama. You might still have low days. You might still feel tired. But you'll have something solid to fall back on. And that's what keeps you going. Not hype, not emotion, but discipline supported by a simple structure. This is how real growth happens. Quietly, repeatedly, through actions that don't ask how you feel, through systems that protect your time and focus, through choices made ahead of time, followed even on the worst days. Don't build your life around energy. It's too unstable. Build it around structure. Build it around habits that stay steady, even when your mood doesn't. Build it around plans that don't fall apart every time you feel off. Because when you live by structure, you don't have to chase motivation. You already know what to do. You just do. And that kind of life, that kind of discipline, creates results that last. Not once in a while, but every single day. Number 9. Set small steps you can finish without emotion. Most people get stuck, not because the work is too hard, but because their emotions get in the way. They feel overwhelmed before they even begin. They think about how tired they are, how far they have to go, how long it might take. And all of that mental weight makes even the smallest task feel like too much. But the truth is, most of what you need to do isn't difficult. What makes it feel heavy is the emotion you attach to it. That's why if you want to move forward, you need to set small steps you can finish without getting caught up in how you feel. Emotion is unreliable. Some days you feel motivated. Some days you don't. Some moments you're ready to work. Other moments you want to disappear. If your progress depends on being in the right mood, you won't move very far. That's why your system needs to be built around action, not emotion. You need to know what to do. You need to make it simple enough that you can do it even when you're not in the mood. Small steps are not a sign of weakness. They are the smartest way to outpace your excuses. When your brain sees a small task, it doesn't resist as much. It doesn't start building a case for why today isn't the day. It doesn't need to be convinced. It just gets started. That momentum is everything. And once you build it, you start to feel capable again. The goal is not to finish everything in one day. The goal is to keep finishing something every day. And to make that happen, the steps must be clear and small. Not vague ideas like get in shape or start a business. Those are outcomes, not actions. A small step looks like 10 push-ups, like writing one paragraph, like sending one email, like spending 10 minutes on research. When the step is that small, your emotions have less room to argue. And that's when the real progress starts. You don't need big gestures. You need repeatable wins. Something you can look at and say, I did that today. And the best part is, once you complete a small step, you often feel the pull to do more. But even if you stop there, you've moved, you've done something. You've built a little trust with yourself, and that trust builds over time. The danger of tying your actions to your emotions is that it creates inconsistency. You have good days and bad days, but your progress should not depend on that cycle. It should depend on your system. Your system says, no matter how I feel, this is the step I take. Not because you're a machine, but because you're someone who keeps promises to yourself. Too many people set massive tasks and then judge themselves when they can't finish. But the issue isn't their effort. It's the size of the step. The brain shuts down when the task feels too big. It procrastinates. Not out of laziness, but out of fear. The way around that is to shrink the task until it feels manageable. Then do it. When you work from small steps, you protect your progress. You stay consistent. You feel steady. And that steadiness matters more than intensity. Anyone can sprint for a day. But the ones who win are the ones who take steps every day, even when the excitement is gone. Make your steps so small, you can do them tired. You can do them frustrated. You can do them without needing to talk yourself into it. That's the power of making it simple. The task doesn't care how you feel. And over time, you learn that neither do results. They come from action, not emotion. A small step also brings clarity. It forces you to get specific. Instead of living in the fog of, I have so much to do, you live in the clear space of, this is what I'll do next. That clears the mind. That reduces stress. That creates movement. One step done is better than a big step planned and delayed. Your mind is not the problem. Your emotions are not the enemy. But they're not the best decision makers. They're inconsistent. They change, and they often lead you to stop before you've even started. That's why structure beats movement. A good system, built on small steps, keeps you moving no matter what your internal weather looks like. Start looking at your goals differently, not as huge achievements to chase, but as a set of simple actions to repeat. Write them down, break them apart, reduce them until they're doable without mental resistance. Don't try to impress anyone with the size of your steps. Focus instead on showing up daily. This isn't about lowering standards. It's about removing friction. Every excuse loses its power when the task is too small to resist. You stop needing perfect energy. You stop delaying because the action no longer feels impossible. And that freedom brings discipline. Every day your job is to finish what you can without emotional drama. You don't need to love the task. You just need to do it. And the more often you do, the more natural it becomes. The more your identity starts to shift. You stop saying, I need to be motivated. You start saying, I take action, no matter what. You don't have to feel ready. You don't have to feel inspired. You just need a step so small that your brain doesn't fight it. Then repeat that. Over time, those small steps turn into real change. Not overnight, not with fireworks, but quietly, steadily, and powerfully. That's how strong people are built. Not from emotional highs, but from a pattern of consistent follow-through. They know that feelings fade, but results last. And the results come from what you do again and again, not from what you feel in passing. This is how you regain control. You stop chasing the perfect time. You stop analyzing every thought. You just take the step that's in front of you. You build trust through completion. You build progress through action. And that's where success is born. Not in intention, but in repetition. So if you're tired of waiting, tired of thinking, tired of circling around your goals, give yourself something small you can finish today. Then do it again tomorrow. Don't worry about how you feel. Worry about what you're building, and keep building. One step, then the next. Always within reach. Always within your power. Number 10. Build a system that works even when you fail. Failure is not the end of the road. It's part of it. Every person who has built something meaningful has stumbled. They've missed a step. They've made bad decisions. They've lost focus. They've broken their own promises at some point. The difference between the ones who keep going and the ones who quit isn't perfection, it's the system. It's what they fall back on when everything goes wrong. If your progress depends on never failing, you're in trouble. But if your system is strong enough to survive your lowest moments, you'll always have a way forward. Most people don't build a system, they build a streak. They rely on doing everything right. They follow a routine for a week or two, and it works until life gets messy. Then they miss a day, fall off track, and spiral. The entire routine collapses because it was built on momentum, not structure. But momentum fades, and when it does, your system needs to hold you, not judge you, not shame you. Just keep you moving, even at a slower pace. A real system doesn't ask for perfection. It expects failure. It's prepared for it. It gives you a path back instead of a reason to stop. That means building your habits, your routines, and your schedule in a way that doesn't break when you make a mistake. You eat poorly one day. The plan reminds you what to eat the next. You miss a workout. The system doesn't punish you. It picks up right where you left off. You lose focus for a few hours. The structure resets you by the next task. The most powerful systems aren't designed for your best day. They're designed for your worst. The days you wake up tired. The days everything goes wrong. The days you're not proud of your choices. Your system should be something that brings you back without guilt. That's how it survives long term. That's how you keep growing, even through setbacks. This is where most people get stuck. They try to make a plan so perfect that there's no room for failure. But life doesn't care about your plan. It brings stress, distractions, emotions, and unexpected problems. And if your process can't handle that, it will break off. That's why your routine needs to be flexible enough to bend without falling apart. Strong enough to carry you when your motivation disappears. Simple enough that you can return to it without rebuilding it from scratch. You don't need a complicated blueprint. You need actions you can repeat. Habits that don't collapse when you mess up. A fallback you can trust. That could be something as basic as waking up at the same time, even if the rest of your day is a mess. It could be starting your morning with water, movement, and 5 minutes of writing, even when the night before was unproductive. These are anchors. They pull you back, quietly, without drama. When failure happens, most people add emotion. They feel frustrated. They feel weak. They tell themselves they always mess things up. That inner dialogue becomes the real reason they stop. But when your system is built to expect mistakes, those feelings don't carry as much weight. You don't spend hours trying to explain your failure to yourself. You simply return to the structure. You do the next step. You rebuild by acting, not overthinking. A good system is honest. It doesn't try to impress anyone. It's not based on hype. It's based on what you can actually follow through on. Over time, not just when things are going well. That kind of system is what makes real change possible. Not intensity, not willpower, just consistency built on stability. When you build a system that works even when you fail, you stop fearing failure. Because it doesn't set you back to zero. It becomes a pause, not a collapse. You know where to go next. You don't need to start over. You just need to continue. That mindset changes everything. It gives you control over your progress. You stop depending on perfect conditions. You stop waiting for a fresh start. You just get back to the next action. You need to define your non-negotiables. What actions happen no matter what? What habits survive the storm? These are the pieces of your system that don't break when you do. They hold your routine together while your emotions reset. They give you a way forward even when motivation is gone. That could mean setting a minimum version of your habits. On your best day, you might exercise for an hour. But on your worst, your system says, walk for 10 minutes. That might not feel like much, but it keeps the routine alive. And sometimes that's enough. Because when you keep the habit alive, you don't lose momentum. You don't lose identity. You don't go from I slipped to I quit. You just adjust and continue. You can't control every part of life, but you can control how you respond. And your system is part of that response. It's your structure. It's your foundation. If it's built well, it won't break under pressure. It will bend and hold you until you're steady again. Think about your current habits. Which ones disappear the moment something goes wrong? Which ones survive no matter how you feel? Those answers tell you how strong your system really is. And if you don't have one yet, start now. Build it slowly. Don't wait until everything falls apart. Create it before you need it. Design your day with checkpoints. Create fallback routine. Simplify your structure so that nothing feels overwhelming when you're not at your best. This isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's how you build something that lasts. Anyone can be disciplined for a week, But real growth is measured in years, and years are built one day at a time, especially the hard ones. You won't always get it right. You won't always feel sharp, but your system should carry you through those days. You don't need to feel strong every day. You need a structure that reminds you what to do when you do. That's how people build unshakable habits. That's how they make change real. Not because they never fall, but because they never fall all the way back. Their system keeps them close to center, and they always return. Build that. Build a system that works even when you fail. So when the pressure hits, when you make a mistake, when your motivation disappears, you're not lost. You're still on the path. You're still in motion, quietly, steadily, and most importantly, without needing to start over. Now you know goals give you direction, but systems give you results. If you keep waiting for the perfect day or the perfect energy, you'll keep spinning in circles. But if you build a system you can follow no matter how you feel, your life starts to move forward, quietly, steadily, and consistently. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being prepared. Because success doesn't come from what you hope for. It comes from what you do every single day. So don't just think about what you want. Start building the structure that gets you there, step by step, day by day. And if this hit home for you, don't just leave. Save this video. Rewatch it when you feel stuck. Share it with someone who needs it. And come back. Because we're not done. The system you build today is the foundation for everything tomorrow.